Hi guys, I finally have Henry, but he's being a big scared baby, and so he wants to run away. So we'll see how long he stays here. Henry, with me. Chapter 37, Misdirection. March spread out Elfie's list on the blanket. Scrawled next to the list were the names Izzy had deciphered. Number 1, Particle Zoo. Number 2, Room Service, Hein Mulder. Number 3, Vacuum Packed, Michelle Westlake. 4 and 5, Surfing Murph, Dolores Leon. Number 6, Wet Paint, Blanche Pottage. Number 7, Plastic Replica, Renee Reuter. Here's Elfie's list, March explained to Jules. Methods and targets. Now we know what he was after, moonstones. Jules frowned. What if Oscar didn't steal the list? What if they were working together? Elfie liked to work alone, March said, but maybe he owed him because Oscar went to prison. When he got out, maybe he found Elfie. What happened that night in Amsterdam? Jules pushed her food away. Could Oscar have been there too? March thought about the figure on the street. Somebody followed me, but I don't know if it was Oscar. Now that he'd seen Oscar in person, he wasn't sure. He'd only caught glimpses in Amsterdam, and he'd been scared. He didn't have a clear memory. Tell us what happened, right from the beginning. My bike was stolen, so I was late. Just 1 minute. But that can mean everything in a heist, you know? I got there and didn't see Elfie. When I saw someone moving along the roof, I looked down. Thanks, Nori. I looked down at my phone to check the time. When I looked up again, Elfie was standing close to the edge of the roof, and Jules stopped him by holding up her hand. Hang on. Did you hear what you just said? You saw someone moving on the roof. You mean you didn't identify the person as Elfie? Of course it was Elfie. The next time I looked up, I saw him clearly. Jules blew out an exasperated breath. I worked at the Stick and Rag. I know about what you think you see and what's actually there. Like tonight, Darius said. We all thought it was you on the cloud swing when it was dark, but it was just a bunch of lights. It's called misdirection, Jules said. So think, March. Did you see Elfie the first time or someone else? March thought about the shadow. It was impossible to say whether it was Elfie. He just assumed it was. And the next time he looked, it was only a second or two. Would Elfie have time, if he were that shadow, to get to where March saw him standing? No, it was too far. There had been someone else on the roof that night. Chapter 38, The Whole World Tips. The knowledge lit up his brain, the realization a spear of agony. It wasn't him, he cried. The first shadow wasn't him. I should have known it. And what would you have done? Warned him. Don't you think he already knew someone was up there with him? Jules asked. Why do you think he threw you the moonstone? And what about the bike? What if Oscar stole it so that you'd be late? What if you were meant to arrive after Elfie was dead? March could only sit blinking at her. Jules's gray eyes were holding his gaze. He realized that she was sitting just as he was, cross-legged, her fisted hands on her knees. It was like facing a mirror. The information seemed to come in bewildering bursts, like all those TV shows in countries where he couldn't speak the language. He'd sit on the edge of a hotel bed trying to pick up a word that made sense. Penny. I lost my place again. He had thought one thing, and yet things were going on that night that he didn't know. You think Oscar pushed Elfie off the roof? The world was tipping. He was sliding. He couldn't find a place to hang on. Jules' eyes were on his face. Maybe, or maybe he really did slip. I saw Elfie up there, March said. He smoothed his eyebrow. It was our signal for me to take off. It was a warning. He pounded his fist on his knees because he knew there was someone else on the roof. He knew he was in danger. That's why he threw the moonstone. And the next thing I knew, he was falling. So the person who was following you could have been the killer. He felt himself fracture into pieces. He couldn't breathe. He didn't fall. Every muscle seemed to throb around that fact. He was pushed. Hold on, Jules said. Just take this slow. No, Mark shook his head. No, he was. I know it. Izzy moved closer to Darius. Jules hugged herself. They all sat waiting for March to calm himself. He was swallowing again and again against the tears in his throat, but they were sliding down his face anyway. All he could think was, push, not fell, pushed, not fell, pushed, killed, murdered. Terrible words from TV and books and movies, not words about his own father. He dropped his head into his hands and pressed his fingers against his eyes. He wanted to run fast and far. He had nowhere to go. March, Jules touched the knee so lightly he wondered if he'd imagined it. But when he looked, her hand was there, close to his but not touching it. This is the one place, the only one in the world, where you're with people who know how you feel. Not exactly how, but close. Izzy moved an inch closer. Scary things happen. The worst wrong things, Jules said. Bad stuff in your head, Darius said. Feels like it'll never leave. Terrible dreams that won't go away, Jules said. Things you saw that make you want to rip your heart out of your body, Darius said. But you walk around every day anyway, Jules said. Izzy slipped her hand into Darius's pocket. When I first met Darius, I tried to pick his pocket. He caught my hand quick as anything. He didn't let go. She leaned forward, her gentle, dark eyes on March. We won't let go. Not if you don't want. A silence fell, a different one, not charged with March's feelings, but something solid and good. March let the silence sit. Elfie had told him about silence. He had said that most people didn't understand it, but silence can hammer a point, make an enemy, make a friend, close a deal. Okay, he said, but this changes things. If we want to acquire all the moonstones, we have to go after Oscar. And he's not just a thief, he could be a killer. So there's a reason to back off. Or, Darius said, it's all the more reason to do it. Elfie used to say that revenge was never a reason to do a job, ever. Revenge gets you jail or gets you dead. So if we do it without being crazy. If we go up against a killer, we just concentrate on the stones. That's the only revenge I'm looking for. So who's still in? I'm in, Jules said, her voice quiet. Is he? Slowly she nodded. I'm in, Darius said. And if you're going to do it, March started. Jules raised an eyebrow in a look that reminded him so much of Elfie that he caught his breath. Don't do it, stupid, they said together. We say bye-bye, Henry. Bye-bye. See you later.